Hello and welcome back to Autistic After Hours. I'm your host Ashra, and today we're going to be talking about one of my biggest current struggles as an autistic person. But before we get into the episode, quick reminder to follow Autistic After Hours on Instagram. I post original content on there every single week. Also, a reminder to follow me wherever you're listening, whether that is Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. And if you are watching the podcast on YouTube, say hello to Crosby, who is sitting here in my lap today. If you hear some purring, that would be coming from him. Today, I wanted to kind of do an update about one of my bigger struggles as an autistic person, which is trying to balance a need for social connection with a great aversion to socializing. And I wanted to kind of delve into both of those different needs and experiences, and how finding the balance between them is difficult because they're kind of opposites. So the first thing that I want to talk about is this social aversion. And you guys know by this point that I have a lot of social struggles as an autistic person. I often find that I don't connect the same way that most other people do. I don't connect the same way that most autistic people do. And I have a really hard time navigating social situations because of my differences in my communication. I think a big part of it is also just the double empathy problem, just the fact that there is very little room for support and acceptance of autistic traits in a very neurotypically constructed society. And because of that, even though we may not necessarily be experiencing any sort of social or communication deficit, just because of the fact that we're experiencing social or communication differences as a minority group, that puts us in a place of needing to accommodate other people rather than them meeting us halfway and us both accommodating each other, which is what the double empathy problem refers to, where oftentimes it's the minority or the disabled people that are doing all of the work to fit into the society that they're a part of or to navigate the social environment that they're a part of, and the majority, or the, in this case, autistic population, is not doing any of the work to help accommodate their autistic peers, friends, relatives, whatever it is. Because of that, autistic people are often made to feel like we are the ones that constantly have to change. We are the ones that have to adapt and adjust to fit the systems around us, when really it should be effort on both sides to accommodate each other. It often doesn't work out that way because of ableism, because of people being non-accommodating, because of a lack of understanding and knowledge and awareness and acceptance. It's often the case that autistic people end up feeling really isolated, really lonely, and end up opting to isolate as opposed to navigating social environments, because it can be so emotionally, physically fatiguing, exhausting, devastating to constantly have these negative social experiences. Because of this, a lot of us end up in this situation where I find myself now, which is feeling like I have a social drive. I want to have social experiences. I often find myself fantasizing about social things, about being a part of a group, or about doing like fun things that would involve socializing, yet I hardly ever find myself in those situations in real life. I have a social drive. Like, I feel like I want to connect with other people, and I want to have deep, meaningful conversations, and I want to hang out and be able to just like have a friend to text and be like, hey, want to do this together? Like, I want those things. And I do have some very deep and meaningful relationships where I have those things, but it's very few. I have really only maybe like 2 or 3 friends where I can do those things with, and a lot of them are far away from me, live in different states. And so I find myself very often feeling pretty isolated, pretty lonely, and feeling like I want to be social, yet having no outlet for that feels actually safe and affirming and actually will be satisfying. What often happens is I have this social drive, I want to connect with somebody, and then I end up hanging out with them or something, and I have a slew of negative interactions or experiences in that setting. And because of that, most social situations feel really unsatisfying, or feel almost like they make me feel worse than I did before. So it's like, do I push myself to socialize and potentially have negative experiences that will leave me feeling worse? Or do I isolate myself, not put myself out there, and then end up feeling really lonely? It's like this lose-lose, and I feel like a lot of you probably relate. Sometimes it almost feels like if you had an itch, but you were only able to like itch all around that area, but never actually on the spot. That is sometimes what socializing feels like for me, because it's like I have this social itch, like I have this unsatisfied need, this desire, but then when I try to fulfill it, it never feels satisfying because socializing is so different for me than it is for most people. Most people, I feel, are looking for something different out of socializing than I'm looking for, or like it's that we just connect in different ways, like the way they view connection is different from the way I view connection. It seems like a lot of times there's just a mismatch in what meaningful connection looks like for me versus for other people. And I do feel like this happens less with other autistic people, yet that doesn't always solve all of the issues. And that's another frustrating thing, is that a lot of times when I talk about this, people will tell me in the comments, like, you just need to find autistic friends. But that's really not the full thing. Like, it's not only that. It feels like for me, just talking to other humans can be difficult, regardless of their neurotype. Just human connection in general is difficult for me. And I feel like that is a big part of being autistic for a lot of people. Like, socializing in and of itself is difficult for me, regardless of who it's with. And I don't like that that is often minimized in autistic spaces where people are saying, like, you just need to be around other autistic people and your struggles will go away, because it doesn't really work like that. Maybe for some people it does, but for a lot of people it doesn't. Being autistic is largely a social disability for a lot of people. A lot of people specifically feel socially and sensory-wise disabled by their autistic traits, and being around other autistic people does not just make those things go away. Even though sometimes it can help, it doesn't necessarily just cure or get rid of the fact that you're autistic. And yes, there can be more understanding, more acceptance when you're with other autistic people, but it doesn't always work that way. And so talking about it that way and framing it that way can be quite dismissive. And I think it's important to understand that being around other autistic people is not like a cure-all or a way to magically just have great social experiences. Like, it can still be difficult even when you're around other autistic people. So this is a really difficult thing, trying to balance a desire for social connection with an aversion to socializing because of all the negative social experiences I've had and because of how unsatisfying socializing often is for me. Some things that I've found have helped is going to settings or places where there are other people around, but you're not necessarily socializing with them, like you're not necessarily talking to them. So like going to the gym, going to walk in an area where there's other people walking, like going to some well-trafficked area that's like not overly busy, but like there's other people engaging in the same activity, walking, even though you're not talking or necessarily like connecting with the people, you're still around them, which is a form of connection. But I do think that this is maybe going to be something that I'm always going to have to navigate and deal with throughout my life. I think I'm always probably going to feel like there's something I'm looking for, something I'm desiring that can't quite be satisfied just because of existing as an autistic person, especially in settings where there are not a lot of other autistic people. And ultimately, I wanted to share this today to tell you that you're not alone, and like, this is not a struggle that I hear people talk about a lot. Often I hear people more so talking about lacking a social drive or like not needing to be social or not wanting to be social and feeling better alone. Whereas there are a lot of autistic people that don't necessarily feel that way. Like, we don't necessarily want to always be alone. We don't completely lack a social drive. There are some of us who want to be social, who crave that connection, but struggle to get it because of our autistic traits and because of how non-accepting and how different our approaches to socializing and connection can be from the people around us. So I wanted to just present this difficulty and show you that if you experience it too, you're not alone. And it's really difficult to balance this need for socializing and need for connection with having really unsatisfying and sometimes really harmful social experiences. And I think overall, like, being in more autistic spaces does help. I also think being more connected to your authentic self can help, but again, it only goes so far when at the core you are just needing and approaching things differently from allistic people. And this is a really hard thing to go through, and you're not alone. That's all I have for you today. As always, remember, autistic adults exist. We deserve awareness, support, community, and acceptance, and I'm so grateful that you're here. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.